Hey, this is Jim here with a video on my 1999 Volvo S70 base model. I wanted to do just kind of a general purpose video, kind of a walk around type video on this car and just give a little bit of information on it, how I came to own it and its current state right now. I attempted to do this about a week ago, I guess. Some of the shots you're seeing here are from that time. I tried twice to shoot a video, and both locations I was at had some background noise, some interruptions, technical issues, things of that nature. And at the beginning, I was just going to scrap the video and kind of forget about it, but I figured I had enough good shots of the vehicle to where I could just kind of talk over it and give some info, and that would be good enough. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'll give you a little bit of background information. As I said, I bought this vehicle last August from the original owner who had purchased it back in November, I think it was, of 1998. I do have some service records that go up to probably, I think it was 2004, with oil changes and general scheduled maintenance, things like that. So it seems like they were pretty good about that sort of thing. It also seems like they were probably good about garaging the vehicle too, looking at the condition of it and by the paint and things like that. I would say the vehicle overall is in exceptional condition for the age. I don't want to say how much I paid for it. It was probably a little bit too much, but I factored in things like the age of it, the condition of it, and also the fact that they said they had just done the timing belt at 108,000 miles. And at the time I was buying it, as I said, it had 135. Now ordinarily you'd think, hey, great, the timing belt's good for a while, so we're good. Unfortunately, I found out that when the vehicle had 108,000 miles, that was back in 2010, more than 10 years ago. So that was a bit of a letdown to hear. So I am going to need to address the timing belt sooner rather than later. I can't obviously wait another 70,000 miles. I'm going to have to take it in and have it done at some point. I did have the timing cover off some time ago when I was changing the spark plugs and the ignition coils, and the belt, just from the little bit I could see, looked okay, but obviously that's no real good indication. There's a couple of imperfections, like up here the weather stripping or the molding, whatever you call it, is pretty shot. I'm trying to figure out the best way to address that. If anybody has any advice or tips, please throw them in the comments, because that's something that I'd really like to get taken care of, as it really ruins the aesthetics of the vehicle, which is otherwise pretty good. The paint, I want to do a clay bar and a wax at some point. That's just something I've been putting off due to not having the time and the energy. But that's something that really would benefit this vehicle. A couple of imperfections like what you see here, where the bumper, they hit something or they were hit and it's pulled away. It just needs to be clipped back in. I think the clips could be put back into the holes, but I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it really too deeply. The set of Goodyear tires you see, those were put on just prior to me owning the vehicle. It had sat so long, so the tires on it had dry rotted, so they went ahead and put a set of tires on it. They also had the brakes done, which I appreciated, so it has good brakes. The struts and the springs are actually the originals. I'm going to need to do that very soon. There's a dent here on the back trunk lid, which is kind of an eyesore, but unfortunately it's in a very inconvenient place to do. It would require some professional dent services, which I just don't necessarily want to do. I did cover up a paint chip there with some touch-up paint, which is the wrong color. I'm aware of that. I think it was a Toyota blue, but I just wanted to get something on there to stop the rust, which it was starting to. I sanded it down and painted it. A couple of other imperfections on the body here, the back bumper, where it was scuffed. I don't know if they hit somebody or they were hit. Not a big deal. I can probably rub that out. These scratches here, those are probably there to stay, but they're not that noticeable unless you're up close. The exhaust I went over in another video. It's loud. I'm not really sure why. I had a theory that maybe the PCV system was clogged, which is notorious on these vehicles. But I did the dipstick test and the glove test, if anybody's familiar with those, and the vehicle passed those, so I'm not really sure what to think. The interior is pretty good. The dash pad isn't really cracked, as is known to happen. The seats could probably stand to be brought out with some leather conditioner, Sorry about all the stuff in the car here, by the way. The door cards, as you'll see here in a second, the vinyl has pulled away over the years as the adhesive has let go. Not really doesn't bother me all that much. It's probably not something I'm going to feel the need to address. Everything pretty much works. The power windows, power locks. The AC works very, very well. Blows nice and cold. Windows are a little bit sluggish, but they do go up and down. All of the gauges work. The temperature, actually the temperature, the thermometer gauge, I should say. The thermometer tells you the temperature. That's shot. The cassette player does not work. CD player does work, but it probably skips more than it should. But anyways, I have another CD player I'm going to put in. I bought a Pioneer radio some time ago to put in the vehicle. I got the harness adapter spliced into the radio wiring harness here. I'm no expert on this by any means, but I think I did a pretty good job. I've done 4 or 5 of these aftermarket radio installs, and every one of them I've done have gone pretty well. But then I went ahead and connected these connectors to the wiring harness on the vehicle. Turned the key on, no power to the Pioneer radio, so I figured something was probably wrong with the pinout. So I put back in the factory radio, only to find that that had no power. And then a few minutes later, thankfully, I came to my senses and realized that I probably had blown a fuse, which was the case, so I just replaced the fuse. And that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to have to find I've been trying to find a wiring diagram for this radio, but okay, so I went ahead and pulled out the factory radio. I'm not going to take the connectors off the back of here right now because I only have 2 hands and I'm holding the radio with the other hand. But as you can see, the wires here on this Volvo, in addition to being incredibly dirty and dusty from being in there in 20 years, they also use some really funky colors. That connector on the left side of the screen here, that's for the speaker wires. The other connector has the power wires, the ground wires. That blue with the white stripe, I'm pretty sure is the power antenna, but some of these colors I just can't make heads or tails of, and there are several more wires on these harness connectors than exist on the harness adapter that I bought for my Pioneer radio. So I'm just thoroughly confused right now and a little bit discouraged, but at least I was able to just plug this radio back in for the time being. I don't know how much more I could say about this vehicle right now. Overall, I've been happy with it. I've had some issues like the check engine lights that we've gone over before, and the loud exhaust noise, which I'm not so sure doesn't have anything to do with the clogged PCV system, which is notorious on these vehicles. It's also quite a big job to do, certainly beyond anything I'm capable of, and I'm reluctant to go to a shop and have the job farmed out to them because that's going to get quite expensive. But overall, pretty good vehicle. Owned it just about a year, 144,000 miles. Other than a leaking radiator last December, this vehicle has served me pretty well in the year now that I've owned it. I hope to get it aligned in the near future, and there's also been a little bit of noise that's developing in the front end. Maybe can't tell if it's a ball joint or a sway bar link, but I'm going to have that taken care of too. So thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment. Thank you.